Welcome all to the greatest PPC podcast episode, not even podcast, episode you'll ever see in your life. Setting that expectation, not for myself, but for Cory Lindholm here.
For me, it's just the
PPC
pressure.
Unfiltered podcast is the podcast of us just going through two experts, quote unquote experts. We've been doing this for 10 years full time, just going over the things we're seeing in the industry, things we're experiencing, news stories, anything that's coming to mind, fresh to mind for us based on our direct experience to share with you. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Cory, how are you going, mate?
I'm fantastic, my man. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Apparently better than you because then I'm doing the introduction. So
You're more awake than I am. That's what it is.
wait,
See,
it's 8 a.m.
When we do these things, it's always like 6 o'clock in the evening for me, just to premise this. And then for Michael, it's like the very beginning of his day, like fresh coffee. I'm on my second cup of coffee by the time we get this going. So, Michael, I appreciate the energy.
This is my natural energy. This is natural energy.
Sure.
The caffeine gets to me. But today, we're going to go over two main segments. And those segments are, number one, rising in ad costs based on a Search Engine Land article, which Cory and I obviously see in our accounts. We analyze them. We do bigger reports for our clients, but also it's good just to see that there is an industry sentiment towards this. People know it, but there's good measurement to it. And then number two is the Google Marketing Live event that happened this week. I didn't watch it. Cory didn't watch it, but we're just going to go over the recaps and just be cynical about it, as we usually are. So we're not cynical, just be more realistic about it. I think a real good mental model to have for life, a mental model is like a way of observing things, is there's optimism and then there's being realistic or realism. I even ask this to people in my team, clients and partners. I go, when they say, I'm going to do this, I'm like, cool, sounds amazing. Is that like by this date, for example? I go, is that optimistic or realistic? And they're like, oh, I'm optimistic. I'm like, cool. What's the realistic time like that we can actually work with? So when we look at this stuff, it's being presented as the optimistic side. Cory and I, with our direct experience, we're trying to like pull it back to be what's more realistic with this, because the optimism's usually, the gap between the optimism and the realistic is where all the damage is done. So that's why, I actually like that insight I just said, but that's why we go over these things just to try and give another approach, because there's the optimism, which everyone goes with, the hype, and then there's the actual stuff based on past experience, what we're seeing in the market at the moment, and what the technology is probably going to produce. So,
beautiful.
Cory?
Yep.
Ready to go, mate?
Let's go. So I want to talk about this because we always get these questions around cost per clicks. Is it just us? We hear this from clients. Is it just us, or are CPCs rising? It seems like every year they're getting higher and higher. Yeah, folks, there's nothing new here. It's, it is rising. We do have some evidence here. Now, this is Search Engine Land. They're publishing results from a annual word stream survey, if I'm not mistaken. And this will this is a nice, it's a nice benchmarking analysis so that you can see different CPC, conversion rate, click-through rate, et cetera, those types of KPIs, and whether they're rising, what are the changes year over year, and what's kind of quote-unquote normal for the industry that you're in, or the marketplace that you're selling your products or services. So actually, the main thing I wanted to cover was obviously the headline. Yes, costs have climbed 13% year over year in terms of cost per clicks, and conversion rates, though, are also up 7%. This is kind of the way to say, well, is the rise in costs for every click justified? Well, it seems to be somewhat justified in higher conversion rates. Of course, my and Michael's problem always when we hear conversion, is that a sale? Is that a closed deal? Or is that just page views? Because if we're just trusting tracking that's been set up in an account, yes. Michael and I have audited thousands of accounts probably at this point, and more often than not, the tracking is not good. So I always wonder what we're really talking about when we mean conversions. So we're not going to, as Michael alluded to, we're not going to have rose-colored glasses on here. We are going to be grounded and realistic with this and bring our expertise and just kind of evaluate it at face value. I mean, we're not going to be able to know all the details of how the study was done. But Michael, if you can, let's skip down a little bit to those benchmarks. So the overall 2025 benchmark. So cost per click's up 13%, click-through rates up slightly at 4%. So engagement with ads not necessarily climbing at a dramatic rate. Interesting to see that the average is a 6.66. Guys, I want to say one thing from, again, the core of what we do, if you want to do it well, is data analysis. And one thing that I'm always very critical of is when we're talking about averages. You see this in the user interface, average click-through rate, average cost per click. Averages are always going to be skewed by outliers, and marketing data it's very, very full of outliers and a lot of fluctuations and deviations from norms. So more often than not, I would love to see averages next to medians, because medians will not be skewed by those outliers. So obviously take this with a big grain of salt. We see average cost per click of $5.26 and you go, oh, well, ours is $2. We're crushing it. That's
It's
not a good way
ridiculous,
to do
dude.
it.
Because is this even based on like search, or is it is it a
Exactly.
shopping ad? Because
It's not
shopping ads
channel
you could be
specific.
paying 20 cents to $1.50 for,
Yep.
versus then you've got $5 here, and then I've got clients who are sending $20, $50 a click. I'm like,
Right.
I'm already saying this is ridiculous, but let's
Yeah.
just let's
So
not.
yes. So the value, I think, comes a little bit more below this. This is where we get into industry specific, which is nice because it
Yep.
gets a little bit more nuanced. And most agencies are not going to have all of these data points to be able to see across these industries what are the benchmarks. A lot of agencies are going to be maybe in like 5 or 6 of these, or maybe they hyper specialize into one. So it is interesting if you're curious about breaking out and doing acquisition into new industries. You could utilize this to say, man, where are the edges? Where am I seeing really high conversion rates? Maybe moderate to low cost per clicks. Engagement rates are decent, and cost per leads aren't necessarily that high. Might be a good industry to try to be attacking, but of course a lot of agencies think the same way and they're probably going after those same leads. But Michael, let's dive into some of this. What just from a quick browse, what's surprising to you? What's something that you did expect? I mean, obviously we all know legal is going to have some of the highest cost per leads and some of the highest cost per clicks. That's clearly the case. There's a summary just below this too if we want to jump right to that. But anything surprising to you?
Legal services, that's a very low cost per conversion.
It does seem a little low.
I've run accounts that have operated a 40% conversion rate and actually getting those results, and the leads were like $100. But the average, bro, do you think the average advertiser running the average legal account is actually getting $131 cost per lead? It doesn't matter how, like, if it's criminal law or if it's just trying to like get rid of a parking ticket. This, bro, no, I don't even know what to say. I'm like this. I would need to know, number one, what the actual conversion endpoint is for this business. Like, have they just gone into Google Ads and just like taken that number, or have they actually critically analyzed it, going, okay, these are the conversion points, we'll exclude these, and we've actually tested and measured that these conversion points are legit, not double firing or not firing in 2 places, as in like one on the actual thank you page, but then every 5th time someone visits this page. These numbers as well look too high for sending traffic to a website. And website conversion rates usually operate around 1 to maybe 4%. And we're seeing it much higher than these across the whole industry. I'm like, these people aren't running landing pages. Like apparel and fashion and jewelry, really, are they getting a 4% conversion rate? Like, I run e-commerce accounts for like fashion and jewelry, and they're operating maybe at like 2.5 to like up, and they're making a lot of money. But a 4% conversion rate for fashion, I'm just going to say this: these numbers are incorrect. The cost per lead would naturally be incorrect. In terms of the cost per click, that's more binary, but then you don't know if this is a high intent click or like they're going after broad match keywords like irrelevant traffic. Like, what's the traffic quality like, rather than just the quantity divided by cost. And then click through rates, that's probably accurate, but they seem oddly high. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think the average advertiser is getting a 5% CTR.
Yeah.
With like mixed with these cost per clicks.
Yeah.
Like, to get a higher CTR, you need to pay higher, but these cost per clicks look like, dude, finance and insurance. $3.45. Show me the maestro who is doing this magic and getting an 8.3%.
It's me.
Yeah. I am the magician. But dude, these numbers are they're just rubbish. None of this makes sense. Like, I know the numbers of the industry. So these do not make sense. So I reckon what has happened is they've literally just got ad accounts plugged in. They're just going, what industry are they in? They just do a drop down and then it just aggregates the data. And then it's just like, there's no quality checking. Anyway, that's my rant over. I think it's rubbish.
Okay, here's what I think is actually happening here. I think more often than not, it is an aggregate. It just says, I think, 16,000 campaigns in aggregate. And I think more often than not, this is getting skewed by branded campaigns. So that is dragging all of these metrics, click-through rate, conversion rate, it's dragging them way up, and it's dragging cost per lead and cost per clicks way down. One of the 101s of data analysis for PPC is going to be segmenting your analysis by branded and non-branded traffic. Yeah. And in this case, I'm guessing it's just an aggregation of everything, which means we don't really get a lot of transparency in these numbers. More often, it's also, to your point, very channel specific. That's another part of the 101 in segmenting your analysis. Are we talking shopping, standard shopping, performance max? Are we talking display, remarketing, outbound? We're talking YouTube, search, branded, non-branded. What are we really seeing here? That would be really nice to have some additional transparency and maybe have some segmentation that way. But of course, when they're creating these types of studies, that is a big ask from wherever they're getting the data from, because that would assume that the naming conventions, you'd have to have some kind of filter that works for all of the campaigns. All the campaigns use brand, but all the non-brand ones, contain this or don't contain these words. So I think I get it. That's a big ask to have that level of segmentation across whatever 16,000 campaigns.
Bro, is it or is it just best practice that people haven't applied? And
what's
laziness and data analysis. Well, naming conventions and structure should be best practice. It shouldn't be like, that's a big ask. And then even just like, if you're putting out something like this, you should have like some sort of like level of data analysis. Like, you could literally go into each of these accounts and get the brand name and then just go to the keyword level and then just literally select all those keywords and add a label saying brand, and then everything else is non-brand. And then you just do everything on a keyword level and keyword performance rather than moving up the scale of ad group or campaign. Like, it's not that crazy, but I shall not throw the stone at the glass house, as I have not done this.
Yes, I really think that the big takeaway here, guys, is I know people are going to look at this and they're going to be kind of a fear of missing out. It's going to be kind of triggering for some businesses. Some businesses are going to look at this and say, man, we're way ahead, or man, we're way behind. And I don't think you should look at it that way. I think this, hopefully, if you guys were paying attention, you're realizing you want to pick this apart and say, how realistic is this really? Obviously, listen to people like us who've been doing this and look at a lot of accounts and say, these numbers seem way off, and here's why we think that is. Hopefully, if anything, you guys have the takeaway of when you see reports like this, start doing that. Thinking more critically of like, what does this represent? How can we think about the metrics that are being presented? And don't feel like, you're way behind or you're way ahead just based on very kind of non-transparent, kind of vague studies like this. Take it with a grain of salt. You get some rough idea of maybe what the general trends are. But again, unless you really know whether this is brand, non-brand, shopping, search, etc., you're not going to get a ton of value from these things, but maybe it gives you some kind of directionality overall into trends year over year. And one thing to be said is that cost per clicks are still going up. So if you feel validated that your cost per clicks are going up and it's just you can really say it's not just you. It is across the board based on what we're seeing here.
I actually did an analysis for a client on this, which I'll actually bring up now. The reason why I just want to give this as an example is just make sure all the data's covered. I'll bring this in here now. So the reason why I want to show this over that article we're just looking at is that, like, once again, this is what's this based on? Like, I don't know what the intent of the keywords are, search impression share. I actually did this for a client, for one of our team members, just because the client kept pushing, like, oh, but our cost per click was cheaper 10 years ago. Oh man, like our cost per lead. And it's like, dude, like the costs are going up. So what I did is I exported all the keywords over time, the average cost per click per year, got the top converting keywords over that time, which I've hidden here, and then done like a map of literally the cost per click for the top 50 keywords over that time. And basically can see that over that time, the cost per click increase of individual keywords over that time period. So for this top keyword, it's up 217, 78, 78, 133. You can do this yourself. You can literally just go into the Google Ads report, get all your keywords, like unfilter all your campaigns, pull it into a sheet, like break it down by year, and then you can literally just get the average cost per click on the year, and then just see what the over that time period, if it's the last 1 year, over the last 2 years. Like I can literally do this right now for even just seeing over the last year how much cost per click's up, 17% for the top keyword. So that's just an example of that. Didn't want to derail Cory, but I think the thing that gets me about this is it's too generic.
Right.
It's too generic.
Yep.
And it's just like, it doesn't make sense for your business. So it's just easy just to export the data yourself and just put it in a spreadsheet. Anyway, did that derail too much?
No, that's kind of where I'm trying to get to, is rather than freaking out about these sort of industry level vague reports, and we've talked about this many times, you have to define the benchmarks for your business inside of your account. And yeah, that's easier said than done, because in some cases you don't have years of data, or you're starting something from scratch, or you're just like, whether that's a new product, service, some kind of launch, and you don't have the benchmarks to go off of. Okay, then maybe you get a rough idea from something like that for your industry. But even then, it's pretty vague. You're probably going to be better off using something like Keyword Planner or SEMrush, etc. Or Keywords Everywhere.
Dude, I actually think that's probably the simplest way, is just go to Keyword Planner, download all the keywords that you're targeting, and then just see whatever their high range and low range are. Put those in a spreadsheet, export your data maybe on a monthly basis to see what the average cost per click was for that month, like the last month, but keep it rolling. And then as time goes on, you can turn it to yearly or quarterly.
Yep.
But there's ways you can do this. This article is not the way to do it. But anyway, look.
I know it's going to get a lot of attention.
Realistic, mate. Realistic and practical, not, just blindly believing things online. Because this is the stuff that actually ruins businesses, because business owners or clients see this like, oh, we're paying too much or too little. Why are we doing that? And then people are like unqualified specialists like, yeah, we are. And then they start doing stuff, and then you're breaking something that's already working. Yep. We don't like that. We like things that work.
That's why we brought this up, Michael. So let's move into our next segment. Let's go.
Okay. Let me just bring up the article and let me press mark.
We're doing a lot of news today, guys. Lots of news today.
A lot of news, fellas. So what we've got here is the Google Marketing Live 2025. Everything you need to know. And we'll go over the headlines. And Cory, just jump in anytime, mate. Like, this is literally free flowing. Google expands ads in AI overviews and AI mode to desktop. Google upgrades its creative suite with cinematic AI tools. Interesting.
Cinematic.
I'm actually going to click on that one. What rubbish is going to come out of that? And I suppose my bias is towards something like this. So Google unveils smart bidding exploration. So we'll click on that. Google levels up its marketing insights with new tools for testing, measurement, and data. Interesting. And Google supercharges ads and analytics with AI-powered agentic tools. And then Google unveils Marketing Advisor, an AI sidekick for advertisers in Chrome, and some other. Merchant Center. Brand and Content HQ. Interesting. Okay, Cory, which path do you want to go down first? Which one was tickling your fancy?
You know what? Let's do smart bidding exploration. I think that's the one I'm most curious about. So Merchant Center, I have a feeling I know where that's going, but let's do the smart bidding.
Cool. Google unveils smart bidding exploration. Google's smart bidding exploration uses AI and flexible ROAS targets to help capture more conversions by unlocking untapped search queries. There we go. Major update designed to give advertisers more flexibility and more conversions by tapping into previously overlooked search queries. I wonder how it's tapping into undertapped search queries.
Right, that's part of the promise of smart bidding is that it's already doing that if you're using certain match types. Well, all the match types at this point, now that I say that, it's all close variant stuff.
Yeah, smarter AI built on existing AI-powered tools like AI Max. Smart bidding exploration helps campaigns capture high-performing searches from new, unique categories. Okay, categories, not keywords. Interesting. Flexible ROAS targets now can broaden their reach beyond the narrow, high-intent searches. There we go. There we go. So this, mate, this is okay. This is it. Ready? Advertisers like a mortgage lender can now broaden their search beyond high intent searches because that's what everyone wants. People want not
Expansion.
high intent,
Yep.
to more exploratory. Interesting. So going from things like someone looking for mortgage rates or get a home loan to how to buy a home. Interesting. Cory,
Oh boy.
thumbs up or thumbs down, bro? Which one?
It's par for the course. Expansion, spend more, expand. That tends to be the
Yep.
narrative coming out of these tools more and more. Just thinking as a an advertiser who wants to control where I'm spending my money, I want to be bidding and targeting and messaging differently for someone typing in mortgage rates as opposed to someone who is looking to figure out how do I buy a home. Those are two different parts of the buying funnel. I don't want to be bidding the same. So to think that you could have a flexible ROAS target, I think this is going to create a lot of people who are going to tinker too much with these ranges. So I'm already kind of foreseeing some problems here with people who a little less advanced, though I kind of like the concept of giving it a little more flexibility. I just think in practice, this could create a lot of tinkering, which is going to hurt performance overall for a lot of campaigns. But let's continue. Those are my initial thoughts.
Mate, I agree with you. And that's why we're dinosaurs. And that's why all of our clients are going to leave us to the new hip advertisers who are doing exploratory flexible ROAS. This is rubbish. This is actually rubbish. Now, in terms of this, like you've also got to look at the example that was given, which I presume Google's done. ROAS targets. How many mortgage lenders do you think are actually uploading their sales data? And like I actually have business mortgage. Like I've got clients who do this and they don't even know their margins. Like they give a loan out, but you're not uploading the loan amount. You're trying to get the percentage of that, which can be variable. So if you're trying to do a ROAS target on a traditionally more B2B, B2C lead gen part, like this is a horrible example. And I presume this is what Google's given. Like this isn't for lead generation. You don't use ROAS targets unless you've got really accurate data that you're pushing in. What percentage of businesses actually have that data? Not many. So this is actually going to be using this just doesn't make sense, man. Like it's almost like as time goes on, the less you go with the new stuff and you stick to the fundamentals, I feel like you're going to get more success because it's like, this is just noise. There's just so much noise with this. Now, this may be good for e-commerce, but with e-commerce, you're already doing exploratory because you don't really control the key, like the searches. Like you can't control the searches on the product feed. Like you can influence it, but you can't control it. And then for a lot of e-commerce, it's still heavily skewed towards shopping campaigns rather than search campaigns. So I'm like, these just don't make sense. Like maybe if this was CPA, but it's ROAS.
So I do think I like some of this. Like I like the idea that we're not giving this archaic way of giving a target to say like 150, because we know that smart bidding is going to go plus or minus that target. It's not like it's an exact, it's more like a flag in the ground that says try to get close to that. That's the rough target. But it's not like you're going to see if you put in 150% target ROAS that in 6 months without touching it, it's just going to hit 150 every single day. That's just not how it
Yeah.
works, right? It's going to try to get as close to that as it can within what it has. But I'm not exactly sure. I would love to know how it's going to determine, how it's going to recommend a range for people. Like if it's going to utilize historical data to say usually it'll give you a suggested starting target return estimate. Is it going to do that for this? Would be an interesting thing. And if it is, where is it getting that from? But I do see some positive from this, where it isn't just this rough static value, this kind of just generic, 150%, and you go for it. I kind of like the idea, but if the range is going to be more restrictive, that's where I like it more. To say, I'm okay with you being in the range of 115% to like 140. Like I like that, as long as that's saying I want you to be within that zone, and I'm giving you smart bidding. I'm giving you this range to work within. And if you don't think you can get that, let me know, and then we can switch to a more manual approach or a different approach in general. But I don't know if that's what's happening here. I kind of feels like it's like, hey, we're going to put, you give us a range, and that means that we can get a little bit more loose with hitting that goal, and we're going to do that by expanding who we're going to be going after, which can be very problematic. That would be my main concern.
Yeah, mate. Well, here's something else more problematic. Look at I'll get you to read the line that I've highlighted, and then I want you to give me your reaction, or more importantly, what you think my reaction is.
By the numbers. Smart bidding exploration, according to internal data from Google, March 11th through April 11th, resulted in 18% increase in unique converting search query categories. First off, categories, not specific terms. These are pretty broad. If you go into your accounts, that's pretty broad. 19% increase in total conversions. There we are again. Okay. We just talked about this on the last segment.
Yep.
What are conversions? Are these transactions? Are these closed deals? What are these things? So I'm guessing that's where you were going to go with this as well. Yeah.
Now, let's have a look. Number one, the date, Cory. Do you think 1 month of data is appropriate?
And I love how the heck did they choose March 11th through? Was March 10th so bad that they had to cut March 10th out of there? What happened from the 1st to the 10th?
Yep.
And oh my goodness, that's just so funny. Yeah, that's an interesting, very small window. Not to mention March through April, seasonality wise for most industries, is also quite an interesting time to choose there. It tends to be more of a stable year, and you also got to worry about geopolitically. March 11th through April 11th. I'm guessing this is 2025, right?
You'd hope so, mate. You'd hope it's not 2021.
This feels like cherry picking a little bit, which I would not be shocked by. Why that exact date range, and why such a short date range?
And how big is the sample size? How many clicks will go? How many conversions? How many sales? How many how much spend? What industry?
It's this 51 from 40 conversions, and half of those are add to carts. We don't know. We don't know.
Well, mate, this. Okay. I don't want to go too crazy on that, but what was the next one? Here, the big picture. This move continues Google's shift towards AI-driven campaign management, empowering advertisers to go beyond the traditional keywords, red flag, strategies, and let machine learning do more of the discovery work.
Yes.
Discovery work, not results, not outcomes, discovery.
But Michael, they're likely to lead to more results if you just expand and spend more, right? Isn't that the
and then
idea?
You click on that setting on Google where it's turn on these conversion goals, and they just end up being page views, because it's yes, we want to be targeting people. Remember, what was that? It was called SMART goals. Remember, there was a SMART goal in Google Ads, which would be some random thing. It's if they clicked on 5 pages and spent a certain amount of time on the website. So that might not be an outcome, but it's a goal that shows a higher intent.
Microsoft still has something like that. Yeah.
Okay, look, we're spending too much time with this, and I'm actually getting upset, mate. So this is your fault.
It's not my fault. It's Google's fault.
Okay, so I'm going to mark this so we can segment this, and then we'll go to another one right now.
Wait, Michael, real quick. Is there anything positive that you see in that piece?
Mate, I
Anything at
see
all? Any
nothing
potential?
positive anymore. Look, man, I'm here
It's getting
to
old.
make my clients a lot of money
Mhm.
because a lot of the clients I work with are still in places in their business that it's like their goal is to get a really high ROI, not exploration. Most businesses are small businesses who the money they're putting over to advertising is a lot of money. Advertising is expensive. Like we can't just go ho hum like, yeah, I work with big businesses. We've got to realize most businesses are small businesses, and it's our duty and our responsibility to make sure that when they give us that money, we actually look to get the highest return on investment, not
Yep.
to explore or build the brand, to actually go, we put $1 in, we try to get 3, 5, 10, $20 out, and just go on that and try to do that for years. Even when the client's like, hey, we could do all this stuff. I read about this. No, I'm here to make you money because if I don't do that, no one else is going to do that. That's why I think this stuff is like, I get really annoyed because I've worked with a lot of businesses that not that I shouldn't have taken on, but they were referred to me from clients that they were in hard spaces, like a really hard spot, like financially in their business. And I've literally turned the business around, like me with my own fingers with advertising. If I followed all this crap, they would have been out of business. I'll put it to you, man. Like,
Yeah.
that was probably a bit more of an emotional response, but like, what do you think? What do you
Yeah,
think?
so I'm really curious to see when we get this update in the API, because if there's things that I can track, I might be able to get some really interesting insights from what Google is trying to give us here. So that's why I mentioned, like, how does it determine defaults? If it's going to give that, can we pull that out of the API so that I can then correlate that with other things? Like, okay, is there some more insights I can gather from this programmatically to get a deeper insight into what's going on in the black box that is smart bidding? I'd be really curious. So that's, for me, the one positive is like, oh, interesting. If we're moving to ranges, maybe that means there's a little less of a black box that I can tap into.
Yeah.
That again is very dependent on whether the API is going to provide those types of things. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. That's my hope. So if there's one positive that I can take away from someone that likes to tap into the Google Ads API, it's going to be, is there anything insightful that I can then correlate back to then manually making tweaks around strategy and optimizations? We'll
Yeah.
see.
Awesome. I couldn't agree with you more, man. But the reality is they may not.
Yeah. We won't probably know till version 20 of the API, and
Yeah.
that might not be till Q4 of 2025. Who knows?
Yeah. Okay. I reckon we've got one more segment, mate. We're running. We've been talking a lot. Who would have thought us talking for ages?
On a
Okay.
podcast.
What do you
Yeah.
reckon? Which one's tickling your fancy? Uh, the Agenic. Why don't we do the levels up the marketing insights? That's us.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. Google unveils new tools for testing, measuring data. Google gives advertisers new ways to measure impact, activate first-party data, and optimize ROI across channels. Google is rolling out a suite of updates aimed at giving marketers sharper insights into what works and why, and across campaigns and platforms, as announced today. Easier incrementality testing. I know you're a big one on that.
Oh, yeah.
You can now test what truly drives value across all campaign types with lower spend thresholds and better testing models. Any insights? I'll just keep going through.
Yeah.
Smarter cross-channel insights. Google Analytics now offers improved measurement of full customer journey and ROI with deeper impression level data coming soon across Google and beyond. That'd be interesting. And new data management tools, centralized hub to make marketers gather, store, and activate first-party data from any source using privacy first tech, blah, blah, blah. And why it matters. As marketing grows more complex, which Google's not making it, like they're trying to oversimplify everything, and privacy standards tighten, brands need smarter privacy safe tools to understand performance and optimize growth. Google's latest upgrades aim to deliver just that. Okay. What do you reckon, mate?
There was a lot of vague language in here, so I'm trying to just get my head wrapped around. Okay, so what is this in a box here? So we've got easier incrementality testing. Now test what's truly driving value. And what is this showing here? So we would see campaign type.
That's right.
Be nice if we could like pause it. Incremental ROAS. I don't know. Is there an actual documentation page that it links to?
No, never.
That's one complaint I have, search engine land. I know you guys are busy, you're cranking out a lot of content, but it would be really nice to like link to whatever the actual documentation stuff is, make it a more user friendly experience. And I don't want people to leave the site, but that would be nice for experts that are reading this content. Because I'd love to see more granularly what are we talking about in terms of incrementality testing. For every dollar, geez, yeah, it goes too quickly.
I'll get a screenshot and put it up, mate.
But I guess just generally speaking, I again to your point, I really love we have to be looking at incrementality. I think it's so incredibly underrated, which is shocking when you know more about that. Is something actually adding value to the pipeline? Or is what we did? Is this event, that promotion, that new campaign, that major sweep of negative keywords? Is that actually causing an increase in efficiency or an increase in volume, or vice versa? And can we say statistically that yes, that event is most likely to have been causing that shift, whether that's a level change or whether that's a trend change, or is it a level change, or is it something that was just an immediate impact? I don't know if it's going to get that granular. These kind of look vague, and I think wrapping incrementality, the concept around incrementality for the sort of common denominator advertiser that's using the UI for these types of insights, they're going to have to dumb it down a lot. So I based on just what I'm seeing here, it looks like it's going to be pretty vague, but I do like that it's giving us some insight into these types of campaigns. At least, again, from what I can see, these types of campaigns are driving incremental growth. My caution would be we don't exactly know the settings around these types of incrementality analyses. Usually that's something you're doing in code yourself, and you're able to tweak the settings, you're able to see all the inputs and outputs. We obviously don't get that here, so I'm a little bit concerned as to whether these are going to be overly optimistic insights that just are trying to encourage you to spend more, or to use that new shiny AI Max campaign. Anyway, that random thoughts that come to
Cory,
mind as I'm looking at it.
I have a feeling, mate, that it's probably going to be a tool to recommend higher spend, and a tool to recommend new campaign types,
Yes.
and a tool to recommend broader, more exploratory advertising.
That's the word of the
That's
decade.
the new word. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we need to add any more to that. I reckon let's try and pump out one more, mate. Okay, we looked at that one. AI content. Do you reckon chat about that? Or I think there was another one.
AI content wise, is it just the messaging, like, or the messenger thing where it's kind of a chat bot inside of Google Ads, or is it additional? Oh no, it's the whole creative stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Upgrades creative suite with cinematic AI tools, image to video transformation. Okay, that'll be fun to. So it's fun to do that stuff, but it's also it can be funny because of how bad it is. You have these like six or these like 6 or 7 fingered humans, and you don't realize it until you already put the ad out there. So I don't know how great that's going to be to use for a lot of brands, but they have already had versions of this already in the platform. So I'm wondering how much different it is than what we've already seen. I do love some of the potential around this type of AI generated content especially for smaller advertisers with not a lot of resources in-house and don't have the budgets to hire agencies for creatives. It is great for stuff like that because they could just crank out when the audiences, when it feels like there's a saturation that's happened, they can keep putting out new stuff without having to hire agencies. I know that might be controversial for agencies, but at the end of the day, you got to keep moving. And with creative stuff, it is nice to have a tool like this that, it's not perfect, but 80/20, does it get a fresh new image out there? Yes. Well, then I do like that for smaller businesses that don't have the resources.
I agree. I actually agree. I think this could be good. The things that come up to my mind are, number one, I actually think it's good in terms of your merchant center, because then if the products can look a bit more fresh and more vibrant, you'll get more clicks. Obviously, that serves Google on a cost per click basis and a CTR basis for shopping. in terms of like the YouTube shorts and like their video placements, which for a lot of e-commerce businesses don't serve them well. You know, it's a good way for Google to now have more inventory, which means they can push more cost per views, like you get more money out of it. God forbid. Who would have thought this always comes back to Google making more money? The thing that I actually have caution about is it only exclusive to Google, or can you actually download this content and then upload it to your landing page? Because if you've got all these beautiful images for a product of like some headphones and they look great and like on the reels and stuff, and then it just goes to a page and like you've just got like the original image because like it hasn't been AI'd yet, is there ability to download this content and upload it to your website or other social channels? Like, can you download these videos and then put them onto Facebook?
Who owns
Because
it?
this stuff is really important for Facebook or meta ads. Google less so, but this serves Google to sell more placements and get higher CTRs. But then if the person goes to the website, they've seen this radiant, beautiful video and stuff. If it does turn out that way and they go to the landing page and, you know, once again, the advertiser hasn't had much money for production, it's like, are they just got the original image, which is maybe dimly lit, no good background. It kind of has a big disconnect there. That's the only thing that comes up for me.
Also around, that's a good question. Who owns this? Like, can you get it and then use it somewhere else, or does that break some kind of legality that is apparent? Not sure. I'm also wondering about policies. Is it? I'm sure again, Google and their legal team is going to say, hey, look, if our AI generated stuff cranks out something that breaks our own ad serving policies, that's on you. You approve these things.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering about that. Like if it breaks a policy, let's say you're in the health and wellness services industry and it cranks out something and you're like, okay, Google created it, looks good to me, publish, and it goes against Google's ad policies. Can you then go, well, wait, you guys created it? They're going to go, no, you know, it's right in there, terms of use. You know, you have to approve these things, which means you're responsible for saying, nah, this is going to go against policies. I'm not really sure if that's covered here. That's another. I know we have more questions.
That's actually
and answers, guys,
that's actually a very interesting insight, because I've got a client now that when they started with us, they were doing about 80K a month, and then within 1 month, I got them up to 250. And okay, like 10x rise, amazing results, but their feed's been down for 3 months now because one of their products, they were reselling Duracell batteries, and there was an automatic copyright infringement for reselling, and now their feed hasn't come back live, and Google hasn't done anything about it for like 3 months. So these are the things that happen. If you've got the same thing with AI content for your merchant center, your feed can go down, and trust me, Google is not helpful with that stuff. So things to consider, things to be aware of.
Yes. All right.
Cool. Let's wrap this baby up.
We're out of time. Yes. Michael, where can everybody find you, sir?
MarketLead.com.au, MarketLead on YouTube, PPC Unfiltered, Michael Nadalin on LinkedIn. Cory Lindholm, what about you, mate?
Cory Lindholm can be found at adsbycory.com. Check me out, testimonials, what I actually provide in terms of services, and a little contact box at the bottom if you want to reach out, if you think we're going to be a good fit, and we'll start it from there. I'm also on LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify for PPC Unfiltered. Thank you guys, as always, for watching, for tuning in, for listening if you're on Spotify. And Michael, it's good talking to you as always, buddy. You're not just a business partner, you're a friend. We always appreciate your insights. And we will see everybody in the next episode. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Mate, you're a beautiful compadre as well. Let's all clap Cory, but more importantly, clap Michael.
Yes.
Excellent.
See you guys.
Excellent. See you guys. Have a good week.